Welcome back to Fitch Painting Repairs Garage. We're going to continue on this 1996 Vulcan Classic engine. We're reassembling it. We have to do the stator cover installation still, but we got to rotate the motor to do the top end, so we're leaving that one off right now. We got the water pump cover that needs to go on. And this, my friends, is the front cylinder rocker plate. And we got the head cylinder, and that is your rocker cover. So, and there's the cam that sits in that goes on top of that, all that goes on top of that, and that's the top piece. So we gotta clean all these gasket surfaces and get this prepared to put it all back together. The rear cylinder's already done. She's sitting over here. We also have to put on this protective covering that goes on. We just gotta clean it. So we've got this one ready to go. She's cleaned. We just got to use a little bit of solvent to clean the gasket surfaces before we put it all back together. So we're going to get this one all done this morning, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to start assembling this top end, and then we'll get this bad boy put back in the bike. Well, we're hoping that this situation has been solved, and the reason for all this work, if you guys haven't followed along with the process, you can go back and look at the previous videos. But what we got is second gear was jumping. It was jumping out of second gear on it, and we tore it down. We thought we had an issue with bent shift fork or something like that. And turns out what the problem was is there was a piece on the shift drum that had broken off. And so right where the shift fork slides along the shift drum into that groove, it had snapped off and it wasn't allowing it to stay in second gear. And then for trying to ride it and hold it in second gear with the shifter, it wore the shift fork face down as well. And so we had some markings on it. So we went ahead and changed it. So what I done was I had purchased used transmission set. I got the entire set. I got the counter shaft, the main shaft, all the gears on it. I got the shift forks, the shift fork shaft, the shift drum, and then the external shift mechanism as well. So I used to replace this transmission. I went ahead and swapped second and third gear from the new transmission over onto my main shaft and counter shaft because I knew that they were good. And the other one turns out to be good as well, but just, you know, because I wanted to keep the gear ratio for fourth gear that I had on this bike, because they had changed the gear ratio on this a couple times. They had an issue with it, and so we're hoping that I had to change second and third because they meshed together and the dog faces were different on the two sets. But otherwise, I could have taken the entire transmission set that I had gotten and transplanted it directly into this. It wouldn't have mattered. So here's what I had found out. So early models of these bikes, they were 4-speeds. This one here's a 4-speed. The later models are 5-speed, and I believe 98 was the year that they made that change. This one's a 96. So this engine, the Vulcan Classics, known as the VN 1500D, and the 1 or 2 or whatever comes following the D is just the production year that they made that motor. So I believe they went from D1 all the way up to D13 production before they changed. So I'm not sure of the date that it started, but I do believe, you guys can do the math and all that, I do believe 97 was the last year the Classic had the 4-speed transmission. But they did make another model. And so this one is the Vulcan Classic, and what I hear is the Vulcan 88 or the Vulcan Standard is slightly different. It has a different frame and all that, different makeup. The motor's slightly different as well, and the main difference in that bike, the bottom ends are all the same basically with relation to the gear ratios in the transmission, but the top end's different. And the main thing has got to do with the head. And from what I understand, I've been told, I have not 100% verified this yet, but the heads are just turned around. The rear head, the exhaust comes out on the left side of the bike when you're sitting on it, and the front head comes out on the right side. So you got one exhaust coming down this side, one exhaust going down the other side. And very similar setup to my Honda Shadow, and so it's got an arrangement similar to this. See how it's got this head, the exhaust comes out on this side, and then on the other side the exhaust comes out on this side. So, but the bottom ends are the same. They're running the same transmission, and I believe the Vulcan, the 88, was made up until 99 with a 4-speed transmission. So, and they changed the gear ratio on them, so you got to be careful with what you're using. You can't just intermingle all the parts because they're not all the same. You got to pay attention to your tooth count on it. You got to have the same tooth count for them to work if you're just going to swap those individual parts. But if you want to take the entire transmission from a Vulcan 88, or otherwise it's a VN 1500A, and the same thing with the number after the A just tells you what year it was made in. So you'll have to research it and find what years they changed the teeth and all that stuff in it. But if you want to do a complete swap, if you have one of these, Vulcan 88s or 1500A is a different arrangement on the top end, but the bottom ends are basically all the same. Transmissions are the same.